Hello, welcome back. So it's a Saturday, it's pouring down rain, so hopefully the rain sound doesn't come through too much on the microphone. It's currently 6 degrees in here in Australia, so yay. And there's no better time to pull this bike apart to replace it with an Australian-made Unifilter. So these are a pre-oiled or an oiled air filter to help collect a lot of the really fine dust that we have here in Australia, especially in the outback and further up north, which is where I'm taking this bike in a few weeks' time. So the one thing people have complained about with these bikes is the ease of changing or checking the air filter. If you get one of these, you're doing a 10,000 kilometre trip, 12,000 kilometre trip, you're not going to check this anyway, unless you drown the bike. So you do this before you go, you do this when you get back. It's not something that you're going to be doing during the trip, like chain maintenance, that sort of thing, tyre pressures, things that need to be checked every few 100,000 Ks. Now, people really don't like pulling this apart because it's so difficult. Now, one of the most difficult things is the bottom bolt on the plastics. Hopefully someone comes up with a fix for that. If not, I've got an idea that I'm going to play with when I've got a bit of time. But apart from that, it's just like working on your bike. You've got to pull things apart. It's a new bike. It's a bit of technology, nothing to be scared about. I just don't really like people commenting that, oh, on my DR650, it's so much easier to replace the air filter, to check the air filter. That's fine. That thing's like, what, 20, 30 years old. They need to just let that go. Yes, it's an easy bike to work on. Yes, it's a thrash pig. Go for it. Drown it in the river and then spend the next hour pulling it apart, getting it up and running again, and yeah, off we go. These things, I don't know, I don't think I'm going to design this to go through a metre of water, which it can because the air filter in this is right underneath the fuel tank, facing backwards that way. So there's nothing really flicking dust up to go into the air filter, unlike another brand, which I'm not going to name, that takes the air filter from the rear wheel well. I think it's an orange branded bike. I'm not too sure which one that is, but yeah, won't worry about that. So you've got a couple of options. You've got an air filter in a spot where it's easy to replace but constantly clogs up, or something that you have to do every now and then you're pulling your bike apart to check on other parts, clean other parts anyway. So it's really what you want to do. But enough of that. I will take the screen off, the plastics off, and we'll go from there. So you don't really need to see me do that because it can take a little bit, especially that bottom nut. So yeah, see you in a bit. Okay, taking the plastics off, a little bit trickier with the crash bars on, but you just got to wiggle it and away you go. So you need to take this front plastic piece off at the front of the fuel tank here. Just another 4mm Allen, which should come out pretty easily. And that's on both sides. I'll just quickly do this side. Okay, and then it will just pop up and slide forward, and we're off. So it's easy. Pops up on that one, and then there's a little retaining clip on this side. All right, so that's that done. Then there's a screw at the front of the tank with a big washer on it. You can definitely get to that bolt, not a problem. So if you don't have a bolt with a washer like that at the front of your tank, go back and see your dealer because they forgot to put it back on. All right, let's take this seat off and take the back one off. Okay, so before we forget, let's just take this seat off. It comes with some stickers, so I was thinking about putting that sticker there so people can't get confused with what's under the bike. So I'll do that now before I forget about it later. I'll just get some stuff to clean that up. The rain's really coming down now. Give it a little bit of a clean up. It's going to be hidden under the seat, so no big deal. I'll give everything else a bit of a clean as we go. All right, make sure it's all straight, even though you're not going to see it. All right. Now, if you're a complete hack, job's done. But we need to actually replace the filter, so one more, and then we'll work out what hoses need to come off. All right, the rain is really coming down now, but what we need to do is, I'll just zoom back a little bit. So I've got the torch shining and pointing the fuel petcock. There's one of these on either side, and then there's a hose clamp which we need to undo. So we'll turn the fuel off on either side, take the hose clamp off the right side, being that that's the higher side first, and then we'll come and take this one off so we can drain the fuel. All this is a equalizer between both sides of the tank, so that's not too bad. And then we'll go around and disconnect the fuel pump, both the electrical and the hoses. So let's turn these off first and start disconnecting some hoses. Alrighty, just for a little bit of information, on the right hand side, when you turn this fuel petcock off, you'll see another hose that just has a plug in it with a little rubber strap around it. The hose with the plug in it is for the external, like auxiliary factory tank. It goes at the back, so you know, no need to worry too much about that one. Just grab a rag anyway, give it a bit of a wiggle, and off she comes. Because this is the high side, there won't be much fuel in it. Now that we get some air through it, the other side will drain out fully. Now it's time to disconnect the fuel pump. We can disconnect the electrics just by pulling down on this tab, giving that a wiggle, and that's good to go. This one here, pretty sure you squeeze the sides. There we go, drops right off. All right, that is all fully disconnected. Underneath the front of the tank, which I'll bring the camera up to, there should be a couple of earth wires and breather lines. So we'll have a look at that. Just having a bit of a wiggle around. It'd be easy if I can lift the front of the tank up, so I will take that stabilizer off. Okay, so from what I can see, these two little breather hoses that you can see there are the only things that are holding it there at the moment. So let's try and take those off. One. Inside that first breather hose, looks like there's a spring. Oh, could not be in a more awkward spot. Camera. So now that the breathers are disconnected, the tank should come straight off. Let's around the water hose. Yay! There we go. All right, so there was a recall on, it wasn't a recall, it was more of an upgrade. And I believe it was one of these breather hoses, and they had to put a spring in it to stop it from kinking, which is that front breather hose. which was the easy one to get off. But because this is a later model one, it's already inbuilt. All right, let's spin the camera around. All right, so there's the two breather hoses. That back one, it's a nightmare to take off. Let's take all this off, which all looks pretty good at the moment. There's no real dirt anywhere. Nice and clean. Before we start pulling ECUs and all that fun stuff off, I'll just get the air compressor and just give it a little bit of a blow over. Alrighty. Done. Start disconnecting some cables so we can see what's going on. That one. That one. Okay. So ECU should be able to lift up, and then there's 4 to take this off. So they're all Torx bits. Right, I think it's a Torx T20 from the looks of things. Let's go grab that. Yep, T20 on the money. Haven't actually been on very many like super dusty roads or anything yet, but that's all about to change. Let's put them to the side. Get this one way down the bottom. There's supposedly companies that are working on replacing all this to make the air filter change a lot easier, but from what I've seen, it involves a whole new tank as well. I think if you have to buy this tank from Ducati, I think it's about $2,000. All right, and let's see if it wants to lift up. All right, one more. Getting a dealer to do this, you can see how they do forget stuff. I saw a video, the guy was missing the front bolt off his fuel tank after a service. And there's 2 right down the front there, which you've got to get to. Let's pull this ECU up and out if we can. And there's 2 washers that have just gone somewhere. Fun. Australian edition. Don't know what the difference is, but it's got Oz written on it. Before we go any further though, I'll just see if I can find those 2 little washers. Okay, so right down the back of the frame, which you can get to through the top. Be super careful. There we go. So it's a little bit of messing around to get this out. It's not something you want to be doing all the time, that's for sure. But you're working on your bike, it's fun. Right, let's just do it the slow and steady route. So I'll get these 2 out and I'll get back to you. Okay, all the screws are finally out. Let's lift that off. Hey. Now, before we go ripping the air filter out, it's going to clean up all down the back there, just with a damp cloth. Okay, let's take it out. Oh, that's a bit slippery. Might help if I can get a grip of it, but... So this one actually doesn't seal too bad, so I don't know if it's an upgrade or what. Absolutely nothing in there, just a little bit around the edge. But this air filter is actually not too bad. If you need a part number, there we go. Yeah, this air filter is actually not bad at all, but I just wanted to change it just before and go up anyway. Let's get this little fine bits of dust off the edge. Well, imagine if we went straight now, straight, no air filter, bwop. Crazy induction noise. Okay, so this is what we're going to be putting in the bike. So a pre-oiled filter setup. So let's take this out. Okay, so top's all nice and dry, and then you've got your spare oiled filters inside. So that's what you get in the kit. Complete spares of everything. As you can see on the bottom there's the green one that's all oiled up. So complete replacement. So once this is dirty, take it out, oil these ones up, pop them in while you wash these ones. Now it says to use a little bit of grease on the sealing surface. That's mainly just to keep all the really fine pieces of dust out, especially here in Australia. So I'm just going to put a really thin smear of grease around the edge and then sit this one in. So I've got a really thin smear of grease on that. We're not installing a wheel bearing or anything, so we just want a real thin smear. And there we go. Clean up everything else, put it all back together. Okay, the air filter cover is back on, all good to go. Just going to clean up the ECU. And it's a matter of putting everything back on in the reverse order it came off. So I'm not going to bore you with all that, and I'll turn it back on when we're ready for the first start. Okay, we're all back together except for the front screen. Let's see if anything pops up on the screen or it's all good, neutral. Everything seems good so far. All right, I think that's a winner. Put this front screen on and then she's good to go. Okay, so that's the Unifilter air filter install for the Desert X done. Pretty much the bike's good to go. I'm waiting on one thing. Not really waiting, I'm sort of hoping that it's going to get here before I go. Not necessarily to make anything better, just probably make the ride a little bit more fun. That's about it really. If it comes here before I go off on the trip, I'll put it on because it won't take long to put on. But apart from that, I've got one little ride next weekend, and then I'll just clean the bike up, pack all my gear, charge everything up, make sure we're good to go, and then head down to the starting point before we go. Along the way, I hope to do little updates, not necessarily big videos, that sort of stuff. There'll be a big video that comes at the end. I'm just going to be filming as much as I can, saving it off to a hard drive and then editing when I get back. So on the way back down from the top end, I'll probably put some videos out just about other things around the areas that I come across, not necessarily the big trip up that I'm planning, but I've got some things going that will hopefully still keep the channel rolling so you don't lose too much interest, and well, before the big video comes out anyway. So I've got lots of things to pack. So for the trip up, I don't really need much. It's just the basics, fuel, food, water, sleep, and then off we go. On the way back, I'll be stopping a lot more just to see a few more sights. So that's why I've got the drone, the big camera, and I need to position them on the bike. So if the bike drops, I don't break anything. Yeah, and my chair. I don't really want to take it, but it's going to come in so handy, especially for the trip on the way back, where I'll be just camping for at least the afternoon in some places where I can maybe get some edits done for the places that I've been throughout that day. So I'll go through in another video when I'm packing my stuff on how I'm going to charge everything, because it can be a little bit tricky, especially on this where you've got your little USB charger off the front here, but I've got that hooked up to my wireless quad lock for my phone. And then underneath the seat of these bikes, there's a little merit socket that you can use, which I'm planning on using in a bit of a setup that I'll show in another video. So I hope that was helpful, and see you in the next one.